Hello, beloved,
Welcome to the Sacred Sister podcast,
where we normalize the magic and sacralize the mundane. In this podcast, we open up dialogue on metaphysical subjects, self-healing tools, expanding consciousness, and deepening awareness.
We're here to support you in co-creating a life full of healing, meaning, and magic.
If you are brand new here, welcome and hello.
We're so excited to have you here.
If you want to know more about what's come before, Season 1 was great for building foundations on spiritual practices. Season 2, we focused on relationships, and now we're in Season 3.
The season of the Empress, where we open deep dialogue with conscious entrepreneurs who are spearheading their sacred mission.
We have an amazing lineup this season, so make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already. Now a bit about us. I'm your host, Britt, a self-study entrepreneur, personal transformation coach, and content creator. I'm prompting you to come to know the self more fully, because when we can acknowledge who we are as unique individuals, our potential to experience life gets a whole lot more interesting.
And I'm your host, Hannah, a life beyond the veil coach, priestess, and astrologist. And I guide you to unleash your source powers, leverage your inner blueprint, and sync with life's algorithm to manifest your wildest dreams. Because hey, we're multidimensional beings playing this game of life. Let's make it fun and magical.
We are so grateful that you're here. And together,
we're here to serve as your
Sacred Sister. Let's dive in. Hello, sacred beings. Welcome to another episode of Sacred Sister Podcast. My name is Britt, and if this is your very first time here, welcome and hello. If you are a returning audience member, listener, sacred being, then welcome back. We're so excited to release this episode today. It is one that is so near and dear to my heart. We're sitting down with illustrator and artisan entrepreneur Abbie Ren today. So Abbie Ren is an illustrator that makes cute, kind things for cute, kind people. Like there's something inside of Abbie's work that just, we talk about it later in the episode, but it just awakens the cutest little childlike pieces of my cute little spirit. I feel like that's completely what she awakens within me, within her art. The energy that her illustrations give off, they're just like too cute, like almost too cute to handle. So she creates prints, posters, cards, pins, notebooks, and more original designs. Abbie is all about creating artwork that is encouraging. She's all about self-love, all about self-care, all about being 100% true to yourself, taking risks, following your dreams. She's all about working hard to pursue your passions, and she's also all about taking lots of vacations and going to happy hour. There's this sort of grounded approach that we also talk about later in the episode that I just appreciate so much, especially from someone who's just experiencing so much success in her 20s, and she's built this amazing business that just continues expanding. She's just such an epitome of inspiration to me, and I'm so grateful that we're able to feature her on the podcast. So Abbie's home is here in the desert of Las Vegas, Nevada, where she opened her first brick and mortar. Yes, I say first because I can feel it in my bones that she's a powerhouse who's just getting started. So she opened her brick and mortar earlier this year in downtown Las Vegas. It's called Local Oasis. So today, we're sitting down with this artisan entrepreneur to discuss cultivating big magic in simple details. I'm going to give a little story time here because I love how we got to know each other. I love our story, and I love who she represents in my life. So I met Abbie at the start of 2018, January 19th to be exact. This story is one of the many that I have up my sleeve that speaks loudly as a testament to the signs and synchronicities that appear when one is on a path that is suited for them, that they're meant to experience, if you will. I remember it because when you live in a close-knit city like Las Vegas and there are people showing up to move big energy in order to get things rolling and moving, swirls of magic begin occurring. And in downtown Las Vegas, unquestionably, one of those path forgers is creative entrepreneur Kelly Bennett. Kelly helps people get their brand going with main veins in authenticity and sourcing organic content. So on a Friday in January, she hosted a branding workshop, and I was so close to not going. Like literally that afternoon, I was completely undecided whether I would go or not. And I am so happy that I did. At the workshop, I made 2 connections, just 2 little tiny webs in a room full of people. I connected with a woman who owned a wedding planning business and a woman who had a young illustration company. That was Abbie. By the end of the workshop, I had calculated Abbie's birth chart because it's one of the first things that I do when I feel really connected with somebody. And I spent some time asking how she felt about various astrological aspects that occurred in her chart. And I remember feeling like there was just something so special about her and so special about the artwork that she creates. The reason that this became such a hallmark moment for me is because the other woman, Angelica Rose of Angelica Rose Events, wound up contacting me a couple weeks later asking if I would model in a wedding shoot for a potential magazine feature. So long story short, super long story, I asked if my fiance, Curtis, could play the groom role in the shoot that was going to get submitted because we had never had engagement photos taken. And so we found out that the magazine wound up only taking real weddings to be submitted for features. And wouldn't you know it, only 4 weeks prior, Curtis and I set intention for 2018 that we wanted to get married that year, but we had no idea what it was going to look like, no idea where the funds were going to come from, no idea this, no idea that. And wouldn't you know it, in that swirl of magic, my best friend Hannah, the co-host of Sacred Sister podcast, had just become an ordained priestess, and she could perform and officiate a wedding if a wedding was to occur. So I remember contacting Angelica and saying, hey, would you maybe be down for this to be a real wedding? And before I even opened up my mouth to say that, she asked me, so what do you think about this? Do you want to get married? And I was like, it was one of those moments that was just so wild in my life. And in the first 8 weeks of 2018, Curtis and I had manifested a $20,000 wedding. My wedding dress was over $10,000. It was absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous. And my family was able to attend. We got photos and video, and everything was 100% taken care of. It was such a beautiful moment in my life. And the fact that my mom passed away less than 1 year later is astounding to me, because one of her biggest dreams was to watch me get married. And with the way that things transpired, there's no doubt in my mind that everything about this day was supposed to happen exactly as it did. And Abbie was part of that special swirl of magic that day. It might seem like she was, an offside to it, but she wasn't. There was something in me that could feel that her business would continue growing and growing and growing, now reaching hundreds of thousands of people. The simplicity, the sweet demeanor, and the character that exudes from her artwork touched something very deep within me that day, and every day since. And it's no surprise that she's where she's at now. So please, if you haven't already, be sure to visit her website, abbieren.com. She also has an Etsy page, Abbie Ren Illustration, and go find her on Instagram too, at Abbie Ren Illustration. So today we're opening dialogue on living big, showing up to deep processes of inspiration that want to be birthed within you, and the fear that's faced when you do it. A creative project that I'm birthing in the form of a book that Abbie is adding her sweet, cute flair and energy to, the positive effects of the life-death rebirth cycle, the imperative role that we as consumers play for creative small business owners like Abbie as we shop this holiday season, and how to vote with your dollar. And we open up on building a creative business in your 20s and beyond. Also, I want to let all of you know that I felt a call, a nudge, a sacred tingle within me to create a conscious gift guide. I'm calling it the Conscious Bows Gift Guide for 2020 holiday season. And this is for anyone who is maybe wanting to buy more small batch, artisan crafted, small business goods, but maybe you don't really know where to start. Maybe you don't really know the kind of stuff that's out there. So I'm putting together a small gift guide. It's going to include 33 small businesses and the goods that you can purchase from them. I'm separating this list into adornments like jewels and clothing, skin, hair, experiences, and tools. So if you'd like to receive this Conscious Bows 2020 gift guide, you can go to my website, Brittlyn LaBeouf, BRITTLYNN, LaBeouf, LABOUFF. I know it's a mouthful, and you'll receive a prompt to receive the gift guide. I hope that this helps people. I know that it really helped me when I started asking myself those questions of where can I vote with my dollar and who can I actually purchase from that I feel good giving the money to. This is exactly what it's for. I'm so excited to get into this episode, but honestly, I keep going to end the intro and it just feels so incomplete because I know that I'm supposed to talk about this on this platform. So do you remember less than 2 months ago, episode 3.8 with wellness blogger and mindful entrepreneur Jules Hunt, I shared with all of you that my daddy, Marty, had just passed away in a motorcycle accident. Okay, so some of you may follow the personal transformation content that I put out on social media, but for everyone who doesn't and is wondering why I would share such a personal, vulnerable piece of my life with thousands of people who listen to this podcast, it's just what I do. I do it to eradicate the shame I sometimes feel from losing both of my parents in such a short amount of time. I do it to normalize conversations about death and the grieving process. I do it because it's my truth, and I never thought that it would be. I do it because there is a part of my spirit that feels ignited when I share these personal pieces of what my reality looks like and how I'm showing up for it, and what I'm finding works for me, and the overall lessons that I'm learning from such a heinous life experience. So now, less than 2 months later, I have another death that I want to share with all of you. My dog Zorro would have been 14 years old in February of next year. He's a silky terrier, and my little boy passed away last week. My little boy. Curtis and I were in New Mexico settling my parents' estate for 10 days, and on the 5th day, we received word from the woman that watches him, the massage therapist for my family. Yeah, we received word that he was having some funny behaviors and he was starting to dig holes in the yard. He was really exhausted. He seemed kind of listless, and Zorro was in his older ages, and I didn't want to make it an emergent situation because I was in New Mexico and I wasn't really able to be there for him, so I didn't want to make it a big deal. I just wanted to believe that everything was fine, believe that he was going to be okay. I just didn't really want to look at and shine a light on exactly what was going on, because being out there and settling my parents' estate, starting to get rid of a lot of their things, as a Cancer rising was very intense for me to be showing up to in that moment anyways. And we received word that next morning that he passed away, that it was a beautiful experience, that Amy, the woman that he was with, surrounded him with crystals and began calling on the angels and archangels and all the silky terrier guides. And then she called on my mom and dad, and she said, "Jerry and Marty, if it is Zorro's time to go, will you come and get him?" And she felt this big energy shifting, and she told Zorro, go play with them. Go. And he went right after that. And a part of the reason that I share stories like this too is for the people that are skeptical, is for the people that maybe haven't run into anyone who has such big stories of, like, for me it's proof. For me it's proof that there are things on the other side, even though I don't know exactly what they are, what it's about, how to tap in at will. I think, those are some of the great mysteries of this life that I actually really enjoy, that they're mysterious. I love the mystery. I want to keep it going. But the fact that we're able to witness it in some really strange way is very inspiring to me, as inspiring as it is mysterious. And for those reasons, and many more that I haven't even named here, those are the reasons that I want to share these stories on this public platform. And I hope that it gives any of you some piece of comfort. And I want to say this to anyone who feels uncomfortable listening to someone talk about death. It's okay. It's okay. Your discomfort rather, is okay. I'm, in essence, okay. There is nothing that you or anyone else can do for me. There's no way to fix the loss of my parents and my beloved pup Zorro. There's no spiritual adage to nullify the pain that I sometimes feel. No way to emotionally or physically hold me that'll make it all better. For the people listening who may have a friend who's recently lost someone and wants to know how they can be there for them in such a touchy time, just ask them. Especially ask them after it happens, like a month or 2 months or 4 or 6 months later. Ask what they're in need of, how you can be of service to them. Some of the most comforting remarks that I've gotten after all this loss has been, "I have no words, but I'm here for you." Receiving meal packages from loved ones to keep ourselves fed, even though after experiencing stuff like this, I don't really have an appetite for weeks, many weeks. And while you're doing all of that, pray. Pray that their heart be lifted and that their spirit be guided. Pray to whoever and whatever makes you feel good, even if you're calling on your own sacred heart. Sending energy outward is one of the most powerful things that we can do, and we're already doing it all day long. When we add, honestly, the element of consciousness to the outward flow of energy, we can choose the energies that we'd like to align with and begin taking notice of the roadblocks that get in our way from continuous loving flow. For me, at least, those little actions speak volumes. They make me feel seen, heard, cared for, loved, at a time where 3 of my most foundational sources of love have floated into the cosmos. At least they're together. And they have been able to show me how powerful they are, helping me from another plane of dimension. Thank you so much for intaking this. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Obviously, this podcast would cease to exist without your listenership. If you'd like to extend your support to Sacred Sister Podcast, you can do so in the form of ratings and reviews on most major podcast streaming apps. Let us know what you love about what we're doing here. Okay, so after this lengthy introduction of today's episode, let's move on to Hannah's astrology segment before diving into the interview with Artisan Entrepreneur Abbie Ren. Enjoy, beloved.
Hello and welcome, sacred beings. I'm your host, Hannah, and I'll be taking you on a little journey into the inner blueprint of our guest, Abbie Ren. And this is something that I really enjoy in our Sacred Sister podcast episodes, to allow ourselves to look deeper into the astrological archetypes that are within each and every one of us, and to see how our guest is using her archetypes to manifest their dreams into this reality. So let's dive into Abbie's natal chart. Abbie's sun is in Capricorn, And Capricorn is the archetype of the boss, manager, and builder. It's a cardinal earth sign, and I like to see it as a mountain. With this Capricorn sun, Abbie really has the ambition and the drive to get to where she wants to go. And the way that she does that is by looking at the mountain and seeing, okay, I want to achieve this. How do I get there? She's good at planning, managing, and putting in the hard work and being disciplined and focused in getting what she wants. Her sun is in the 9th house, which also shows here that she's meant to dive into the spiritual aspects of life and really find deeper meaning of why she's doing what she's doing. So she's illustrating a lot of affirmations in regards to spiritual concepts and allowing people to have more faith in themselves. Her sun is conjunct the North Node and conjunct Uranus and Neptune. So this is really potent because the North Node shows our soul's purpose. So part of Abbie's soul's purpose was to really fully step into this place where she can shine her light and create from the heart. And it's the opposite of where she comes from, because usually our soul's purpose is something that's pretty uncomfortable for us. It's literally out of our comfort zone. That's why we can grow. Whatever is something that feels uncomfortable for us is something that makes us grow. So for Abbie to dive into this place where she's now an entrepreneur, an artisan entrepreneur, literally making money from her creations, is part of her soul's purpose, and she fulfills that beautifully. Then with Uranus conjunct her sun, it shows that she also needs that independence and a little bit of rebellion in it too, where she just says, I'm just going to do what I want and don't let myself get caught up in what I should be doing or whatever people think I should be doing. And then, of course, the Neptune is bringing up her beautiful way of feeling into her emotions and feeling compassion and just letting herself know and her tribe that everything will be okay. Everything's okay. And she does that in a very beautiful way. This Neptunian way of compassion and empathy and allowing things to be and knowing that everything has a reason and a deeper meaning to it. And then her moon is conjunct Pluto in Scorpio in the 7th house. And it's also conjunct Venus. So let me talk about that a little bit. Moon in Scorpio shows a very deep emotional soul. Still waters run deep. There is a well of inspiration and a well of love within her. With the moon in the house of Venus conjunct Venus, is really good at art and design, knowing what brings beauty and harmony into people's lives. And then with Venus being conjunct the moon, it shows that childlike nature that she brings into her art and designs and illustrations. Her rising sign is in Taurus, and it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. The Taurus is the artisan. It's literally the archetype of the artisan, the archetype of the gardener and the business owner. So Venus is her ruling planet, and it's in the 7th house of art and beauty. So she's meant to be an artisan and business owner in the realms of design and illustrations. That's the way that she does it, and it's beautiful how she is sharing her gifts with the world in such a Taurus way, but just so simple and grounded and down to earth and relatable. Her illustrations are the cutest things I've ever seen. And I feel like it is such a beautiful combination of her Capricornian sun, her Scorpio moon, and her Taurus rising. So Abbie Ren is a artisan entrepreneur who channels her inner child into her art to help people have faith in reaching their goals in life. And now if this is something that you would like to have for yourself, an inner blueprint reading, usually that would be about an hour long, so way longer than we did this one right now. But I'm offering this on my website. The coupon code is SacredSis, and you actually get 20% off. So that's a really good deal. And it's just going to be for until the end of this year. So If you are looking to deeper dive into your inner blueprint, go ahead and invest in yourself, invest in your future, invest in your soul. And also, I want to say that the Moon Magic Manifestation Planner and the Moon Magic Integration Journal are both up for pre-order. They will be sent out in the beginning of December, so make sure you check them out too. Both of them are on my website. And then, if you haven't already, I really invite you to join us on Instagram. Our account is Sacred Sister Podcast, and we're posting inspirational quotes and about our guests so that you can really bring in that magic into your mundane and make your mundane magical. So follow us there, Sacred Sister Podcast. And now we are ready for the interview with Abbie, and she's going to guide us into a little affirmation meditation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Oh, sacred sister, a kindred flame, may we light one another. From the ashes rise, oh, we rise, oh, again.
Hello, everyone. My name is Abbie Ren. I am an illustrator, and I'm honored to be a guest on this podcast today. We're going to start. I'm going to lead you guys in a little affirmation meditation. So, wherever you are, if you just want to close your eyes and take a deep breath in, hold, out, hold, in, and out. You can just repeat after me, or if you just want to just savor these things in your mind, I'm going to just say a few affirmations for everyone today. I am safe. I am loved. I belong. I am worthy. I am going to make it through this year and finish strong. I attract beautiful things into my life. I attract everything I'm looking for. Everything is working out in my favor. I have a beautiful life that I'm grateful for. I am safe. I am loved. And those two things are the things that I like to focus on the most when I meditate, is that I'm safe and I'm loved. I think it's just important to focus on like the simple things to be grateful for. Because it can be easy, I think, to take for granted just what it is to just have lovely people in your life and a roof over your head. So I like to just ground myself and reminding myself that everything is okay here. Everything else is just extra things that I have to sort through, but I'm okay here. Everything is okay here. That's it, you guys.
Thank you so much, Abbie. Oh, it's so beautiful, the simplicity of the the truth that can just help draw us back to this really calm state that's like, oh yeah, I forgot.
I know.
Everything's okay.
Yeah.
I,
Probably.
I really love that inclusion about I'm going to finish this year strong. I'm going to get through this year. So it's like, wow, so many of us, no matter whether this year has been really focused on like your own personal realm stuff that's been coming up, or whether you've been really taken with what's circulating in the collective. I mean, I don't think there's a person alive that can say that this hasn't been a really monumental year of a lot of really big energy moving.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also okay if like this year wasn't your best year ever and you didn't accomplish all the things that you need to accomplish. Like as long as you just make it through and you survive, you did it, and just try to think of what are some constructive things that I can do to finish this year strong.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I love how beautiful that piece of affirmations and meditation that just reflected your unique magic that you're bringing into the world. Because these little affirmations and these simplistic ways of bringing us back to what's important is what you're doing with your illustrations and with your art, and really bringing us back into the space of like, hey, everything's okay. And it's just so beautiful how you do that. So I really would love to know, how did you create that magic? How did you become someone who is influencing so many lives with your illustrations? And how did it all start for you? What's your story?
So I started my business around 2016, maybe end of 2015. There was a book I read, which I just recommended Brittany to read, called Big Magic, which really did, it was kind of like a pivotal, life-changing moment after reading that book for me. There had just been, I think I was just like ready. I had like all of these things inside of me that I wanted to do, and I was kind of waiting for someone to give me permission to do them. And then after reading that book was kind of like, no, like you can just give yourself permission. And that was sort of the beginning of me giving myself permission to do a lot of things, to start my business, to start posting art and seeing if anybody wanted to buy it, and to, you know, pursue the relationships that I wanted in my life. It was just like a big time of like releasing self-doubt and just going for the things that I wanted to go for. And so that's also why it's like a big mission for me with my art to like encourage people to well, just to encourage them where they're at, whether it's just, you know, comfort or inspiration. I just yeah, it's a big thing for me to try to encourage people through my art.
Yes, and you do that so beautifully. And so how did you, when you said you started your business with art, like how did you end up doing it? Like how did you become successful? What would be what are your tricks or your
What
advice,
is
the lessons you've learned?
yeah, so when I first started, I knew I wanted to do illustration for sure. I didn't know exactly what that was going to look like and what was going to happen, but I wanted to be a children's book illustrator, and I started kind of presenting myself on Instagram as a children's book illustrator and posting illustrations and stuff, and then I ended up getting hired to do one children's book, which was really great. It's called Mamarella. It's like a spin-off of Cinderella, where the mom is, or it's instead of Cinderella is a mother, and then her night off, it's the fairy grandmother that comes to take care of the kids so she can have a night off. Yeah, it's
Oh, beautiful.
and then after that experience, I knew I really liked doing children's books, but I didn't want that to be the only thing that I did. And then that's when I started making prints and cards and selling them on Etsy. And then I just I put a lot of energy into learning how to market myself on Instagram and Pinterest, and just like how to run a business. I took I'm continuously educating myself on those kind of things, but that's what I really pushed for at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a matter of like having a vision, just kind of narrowing down what I wanted to do and having a vision, and then educating myself about it, and then really going for it. I think sometimes actually doing it is the hardest part.
Yeah. Creating that magic.
Yeah.
Says the Capricorn sun. I just hear all these, like, it seems like when I found out that you were Capricorn sun, I was just like, ah, yes, of course you are. And then it's like hearing you open up on these processes, it seems like you're very attuned to that type of energy that I always associate Capricorn energy with, which is seeing what needs to be done or experimenting with what the list is going to look like, and then deciphering how it is that you're going to attack that list, how it is that you're going to take those steps. And it's just such a foreign energy that I'm just now learning how to step into, like little bit by little bit. And it is so fascinating. This is what I just love learning about other people's processes with, because for some people it's so natural to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I look back at like things I've accomplished, at the time it felt like it was taking me so long. And then I look back on it and I'm like, oh no, I actually did that so fast. Like I can't even believe how fast I did that. So it's funny how, yeah, I put a lot of that like invisible pressure on myself, which can be good or bad sometimes.
Yeah, the Capricorn loves to climb the mountains and just focus on the climbing, and then you take time and look back and you're like, wow, I did all this. I reached it so high. Wow.
Yeah. And even like in the moment, I feel like I can really resonate with what you just said about it feeling like it's taking so long, but then it's like you get to the end of the year and you look back and reflect on your year and all that you accomplished and learned and got done and offered the world, and you're like, oh yeah, it's really those moments of reflection that can put everything into perspective. That's like, oh yeah, wow, I actually did a lot this year. Even if something takes 4 months or something, which feels like a long time in the moment, really, what is that, like a
Oh, what? We're back.
Yeah, I feel like it's that really beautiful piece of reflection that we're able to look back on all the things that we've accomplished and really look at like how valuable they are in the grand scheme of our lives. Even if you're in a process for something like 4 or 6 months and it seems like a really long time in the moment, you look back and it's like, an 80th of your life or something.
Yes. A little blip.
And
Exactly.
sometimes like the work that we're doing is like more of an inner work that doesn't necessarily show itself from the outside, but we've been just integrating and healing so much this year, especially I feel like for many of us. And then we may look back and in the moment we feel like, oh, I didn't really accomplish all the outside goals that I put on. But actually when we feel into it, like, wow, I'm kind of a different person now. Like, I just shifted so much within myself and changed my routines or changed something about my thought patterns or mindset expansion. And that in itself is already such deep work as well. That is so valuable.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Abbie, I'm really curious to hear a little bit more about your artistic process, because
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
So I went to school. I started after high school, I did 1 semester of art, and then I ended up taking a break from college until I moved to Vegas in 2013. Then I did a year where I did like a graphic design course, and that was really helpful. And then I ended up finishing my art degree after I had already started my business. I finished my 2-year degree at CSN, which was wonderful. And yeah, sorry, I forgot what the question was, but I think as far as education goes, I think education is super important, but I don't think it necessarily has to be a 4-year degree. I think whatever works for you. So I kind of have a mishmash of traditional education and kind of taking online courses for various like specific subjects. And reading books and things. So I think that's kind of the way to do it.
So were you interested in illustrations since you were a little child, or was that something that just came to you when you were already a grown-up?
Yeah, I've always loved illustration. I think I felt in a lot of ways that it wasn't like professional art. So I think it wasn't always something that I thought I should necessarily pursue. But then as I got older, that's kind of when I was like, you know what, I just want to do what I want to do and forget what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, I feel like that's been one of the most inspirational things in witnessing your brand evolve is that I'm like, oh my gosh, she can be putting out like all this cute little stuff that just like awakens my inner child, and she's, you know, nearing 30, and it's like, okay. And I just feel like you've helped me organically reframe so many things that I, you know, can sometimes get in my own head about growing up, and what is it that my life is looking like as I'm older, and what is professionalism, and how am I supposed to be presenting myself to the world. So it's just such a really beautiful reminder that like, oh yeah, age is just a number, and the spiritual age, it's like we can be really evolved as spiritual conscious beings, but also we're able to still birth those inner child creations and like tap into that really sweet little heart space.
Yes, I do try to connect with my inner child a lot. I think like I'm a pretty emotional person, so I try to put those emotions into my work. I think it's easy for me to tap into like an emotional encouraging space. So I like to reflect that encouragement in my art.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that was one of the very first things that I noticed in your birth chart, because I met you at a workshop years ago that was offered by Kelly Bennett on creating your brand, building your brand.
Yes.
I love her and everything that she's doing in our Las Vegas community. But looking at your birth chart and seeing that your IC is in Cancer, and the IC is like this really, really deep seed core of your being, like your innermost little feels, and that I'm Cancer rising, and this Cancerian, like soft, tender, sensitive, family oriented, like comfy, cozy energy is like the way that I approach the world. And seeing those two little things interacting with each other, I feel like for me, that's why I was like, oh yeah, that's why she's like a little kindred spirit of mine.
Aw.
And I love too how your illustration spread remind me of Abbie's illustrations.
Do they?
Like when that little illustration that you have from your mama where she's this little fairy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's just so cute. And I love that you two have a book together, that you're partnering up. That's so exciting.
Yes.
I text Abbie like right before this interview, and I was like, do we tease the book? And she goes, if you feel like you're ready.
If you want, I'll have to. Do you want
Yeah,
to
I guess I am ready. Well, thanks, Hannah.
We can cut it out if you don't want.
No, this is a good edge for me, and I'm not sure, you know, how I would have gone into it or whether I would have it all either, but I feel like this is another really deep piece of medicine that I'm getting ushered into my life through Abbie and Abbie Ren illustrations, because the whole process that this creative project is evolving out of has been from me pressing my own edges of comfort. To give some backstory to the audience who's like, what the heck are you talking about? So I had this idea at the beginning of the year that I create this guidebook for others to come to know the self more fully by utilizing the chakra system. And ever since the idea hit me, pretty much, I just started seeing Abbie's illustrations in my head. And I really felt strongly that I need to reach out to her and just see if she was interested to be an illustrator for this project. But I had this pedestal issue going on inside of me that I saw Abbie as like, oh my God, but she's so much more than me and so much bigger and this businesswoman, and just like reaching out was so scary.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But yeah,
I'm not
say that again.
I said I'm not scary.
You're not scary. And that's what I feel like is such a main vein of this podcast. And I feel like the work that all of us are putting out in the world is just pressing your edges and getting uncomfortable to take like big risks in your life, and just moving from a place of integrity that says like, hey, this is how I feel. If it's not right for them, then that's fine. If it doesn't wind up panning out, if it doesn't wind up, being a successful launch or whatever, it's okay. The thing is that you're doing it. The thing is that you're putting that energy forward. And even if it doesn't resonate so much on the outside, you're still moving that energy within you on the inside. And ultimately it's for your highest good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm happy that you were willing to do this book, and it's a truth seeker's guide to self-healing, and we're hoping to launch in spring of 2021.
Yes.
So excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be a part of it and to add my little splash of color and cuteness, but it's mostly Brittany's just like beautiful thoughts that she's organized. And so I'm really excited to learn more myself actually as we create together.
Yeah, thank you. And I feel like some of the stuff that I've seen in your own artwork that I was curious to ask you about is I've seen the collection of the anagrams and some stuff that's like associated with astrology. And I wonder how closely all of that sort of ties into your own spiritual practice, or whether you feel that your spiritual thoughts or anything come out in your artwork.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've definitely grown in my spirituality, especially over the last couple of years. And so I do, I have like a few different like affirmation artworks that have been really popular actually, just as a way for me to like remember encouraging things, but then also so that other people can remember them too. And then as far as like the Enneagram stuff goes, I just think it's valuable to learn about yourself and know yourself. I haven't done an astrology series yet, but that would be super fun. I'd love to.
So fun. And I feel like it's so beautiful that you, Britt, were overcoming those fears of pedestal and just reaching out just from soul to soul, just knowing like, this is what's coming up for me, and I'm calling her in, and if she's ready and if she's willing, then let's do it. And it's such a beautiful testament to just following your heart and reaching out to people that you look up to, and to people that you feel like, are they too high for me? Are they too much? Is that like, oh my gosh, they would never say yes? Or and just do it, and just doing it, because if we feel called to do something, there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
And then
it's funny. Go ahead.
Go ahead. There you go.
I was just going to say that this is actually a really recent thing. Like only since my dad passed away at the beginning of September have I really been reflecting. It's like, if for people that have experienced death, and even people that haven't experienced death out there, there's something about experiencing the loss of someone that's really, really close to you, and the like soul crushing, painstaking place that it puts you in, I feel like it brings you into the present at its very most deep way. And you start asking, some people, I certainly did start asking myself a lot of bigger questions, like, what am I doing here in this life? What am I doing with this short life that I have to live? What am I here to offer? Who am I really? And I just decided it's too short. It's too short for me to be feeling something so deeply and being so inspired by something and just being too scared to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally reached out to Abbie in my very vulnerable way. And I was like, hey, I've been too scared to ask you for 8 months. And, I'm not going to try to make it seem like this is a comfortable thing for me to do, because it's not.
Well, it seemed comfortable. So I wouldn't have known if you didn't tell me.
Yeah, I just I think I really like breaking down that wall and just letting people know how uncomfortable I am doing things, because it's that kind of stuff that you don't have to share. But for me, at least, it's really helpful when people that are inspiring and that I admire, when I hear their inner processes and hear the things that they're scared of, that they are leaning into.
True. That's so true.
Yeah.
What are some of your things that you're going through right now? If you're open to sharing, is there anything that you're like pressing your edges right now and leaning into that discomfort?
Yes. So I opened a boutique beginning of this year. It's called Local Oasis, downtown Vegas. And it was such a labor of love and continues to be. Just a space, it's a beautiful space. And also like, I just took my time curating it with like people that I admire and local artists, and there's my work that I sell there as well. But it is scary. I didn't know that COVID was going to happen this year, and that's been difficult. I couldn't open when I wanted to. We were supposed to open in April, and then I ended up opening in May. And I think it definitely would have been busier if COVID hadn't happened this year. And then actually we're going to, because I don't know if you guys heard, but the governor, he requested that people self-quarantine over the next 2 weeks. So we're going to only be open on Saturdays for the next 2 weeks. So it's just a lot of having to be ready for change at any moment, which everyone else is experiencing this too, even if you don't have a business. But it's a lot and it's hard, and I wasn't prepared for it to be this hard, but I'm just trying to keep in mind that, this is temporary. And even if I just break even this year, it's not the end of the world. I'm not bankrupt like a lot of small businesses are right now. So I'm just trying to look at the silver lining and keep pushing forward and working on my online sales. But it is hard and it is scary, and I don't know what's going to happen. But I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah, thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that process. And for me, at least, it's so powerful and so impactful to really hear from a small business owner just how necessary, how absolutely important and imperative the purchases from individuals keep your boat afloat.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's those kinds of wake up calls that really, for me at least, if I ever were to walk into a corporate store, it's like this active consciousness, right? It's awakening your consciousness to the fact that you're giving your money toward a corporation that has billions and billions and billions of dollars, when you could also source something locally from a small artisan, a small handcrafted good, and you're literally giving your money to the pockets of the people that are having a space open so that they can share their gifts for you. It just ties you to your community, to your neighbors, to your neighborhood. And it's like such an impactful thing. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I really love it. Yeah.
Those and I encourage everyone too. I'm just going to say it for the holiday season this coming year. If you're listening to this right now, please consider where you're getting your gifts from. Jeff
Mhm.
Bezos has earned what, like hundreds of billions of dollars over this COVID. He's one of the only people super benefiting. I mean, a lot of the corporations are benefiting at this time,
Yeah.
but it's like, yeah, really think about that.
Yeah.
Mhm. And it's so much more special too if you feel into it. If you just get it from a corporate store, it's like, so many other people have it too, or it's like, mass produced. But if you go to an artisan store, wow, that was made with love.
Mhm.
That was made with, you're not just buying the object, but you're buying the love that goes into it as well. And you have this piece of love in your home, or you're using that. And that's so much more powerful on such a deeper level than just, a random picture that I get from the store, than if I have like a piece of art from someone that has put their life and love into it.
And that you have a connection to. I think it's so special. Anytime I travel, I try to buy an art print from a local artist, because then it's like taking a little piece of that city home.
Yes, we do that too. We have a wall where we want to buy all different art pieces from different cities. And yeah, it's just so special. Such a special thing. I love that you just mentioned that, how important it is, because literally when we buy from an artist, not even if it's local, but just like from an artisan, it can be somewhere else in the United States or in the world, but it's literally from that person, they're gonna have like a little dance, they get that sale in and they're like, yay, thank you. And it's literally how we can give love and spread love to each other.
So true.
Yeah, and you stock so many other people's handcrafted goods and just other small businesses. That's pretty much what's filling your store, right?
Yeah, for the most part, it's a lot of local artists or artists that I've met over the years traveling, doing craft fairs. So mostly US made. And then there's a few other, bigger brands thrown in there that I just love, but a lot of local art too.
I feel like that's something, I don't know if it's just my Taurus sun. I'm really curious to know how other people feel about this too, but it's like tapping into small stores and small businesses makes life more exciting for me. Because I go in, it's like when I went to your shop, Abbie, downtown, and I saw all the little sodas, these little like small batch sodas, and even just the labels. They're like these matte labels with really interesting like pastel colors. And I think I got like elderflower lavender or something soda. It was so good. It's like, oh, I don't see these anywhere. It's just so unique.
Like a little special thing. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, I love that. So we'll switch gears a little bit here. I'm really curious to know what kind of advice that you would have to maybe your younger self or someone who's in their 20-somethings who's living their own creative life and that may be feeling called or inspired to build a business around that.
Yes. So much advice. Wow. So I'd say lose the self-doubt. Don't wait for somebody to give you permission to create the things that are inside of you. Just start creating. It doesn't have to be perfect right away. It doesn't have to be the thing right away. You don't have to become ultra successful at 21 years old. There are people that do, and that's cool, but that's not normal. Take your time to figure out who you are and what you want to do, and take some of the pressure off. I always put so much pressure on myself. And then just learn, like I said, whether that's college or books or courses, like just take the time to, resource yourself and figure out how to get where you want to go.
And you were just mentioning how you always put so much pressure on yourself. What are some tools that you use when you find yourself in that place, and how can you let go of that self-doubt and that pressure on your shoulders?
I think, I'm sure everybody has different ways that they ground themselves. I know, like, for me lately, it's just been drawing. Like, once I actually stop stressing about my business and I take a moment to like create something new, I feel like it helps me just like put on new eyes and put things into perspective. But, stress is normal. Like, you need to feel it sometimes, but not all the time.
So just getting into action, right?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess just finding ways to ground yourself and to relax. Like, I think for me, I think it's really important to have like work-life balance. So I work when I'm at work, and when I'm home. So I think it can be hard, especially if you're like a self-employed person. It can be hard to draw the boundaries if you're working from home. But for me, it's been important to be like, okay, 11 to 5, that's my working hours. And then when I come home, that's relaxing time.
So when you say you go work, is that in your shop? Is that where you do the illustrations?
Yeah, right now. I think in the future, so I'm moving right now. I think in the future, I might work from home some days just so that I can like surround myself in my space. But I really love working from the shop too.
Yeah, it makes it easier with the work-life balance for sure. Because I just know I work mostly from home, and it's definitely, I catch myself like going back into work, and I'm like, nope, relax time now, family time now. So,
or when I would work from home, sometimes I would be working and then I'd be thinking about like dishes and laundry and things like that. So it helps to have like a physical boundary, like leave physically to go somewhere and work. But obviously that's harder and harder these days.
Yeah, physical boundary being getting out of my office, out of work.
Like literally when you shut the door in one room of your house, you're like, all right, I'm at home. So funny. I really love how much you've been mentioning grounding inside of this. It's such an important tool that I think sometimes we can really kind of gloss over. But for myself as well, having a really air heavy astrology chart, I can get very, very in my head and be so just like intellectually overwhelmed and getting trapped in my mind space. And it's a really, really deep piece of medicine. And I recommend that to anyone who's listening who feels the slightest bit of resonance right now. We're so lucky that so many content creators are offering so many different exercises and practices that you can lean into to ground yourself, different ways of tuning into that rootedness that really brings you into the present, into your body, into the now.
What are some of your favorite grounding techniques, Abbie?
Great question. I like listening to like a guided meditation just to like come back in my body. Yoga. And like I said, like for me, drawing really helps me just be in the moment.
And I love how,
Oh, go ahead. No, you.
I love how you're doing that in your illustrations. It's like literally, I feel like your illustrations are so grounding. And I feel like it's your Taurus rising, like literally just like bringing them so into the now, into being here, being present. It's okay where you're at. You're doing fine. You're doing a great job. Like all these beautiful affirmations that help us to like, yes, I am safe right now. Like, yes, I have everything I need. And I feel like that's your way of sharing that grounding with others. And totally. I love how you bring all of that into your magic, and that's your way. And it's so beautiful how you share that, and it has such, so many thousands of people that you're influencing with that, and that is so grateful for the work that you do.
Thank you. This is making me want to go make art now.
And it's so often, like we talked about this before, it's like whatever we want to do for ourselves, what we need for ourselves, that's our magic. What helps us, it's like the sacred selfishness of like, I'm just going to do this for myself. And then that's exactly whatever people need to for them. Like, I just know it through like creating the Moon Magic Manifestation Planner and the Moon Magic Integration Journal. I needed that for myself to be organized, to feel like, okay, this is what I'm manifesting, to own into my intuition. Like, I needed that for myself. So I created it for myself. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to share this with others. And I'm sharing it with others, and other people love it and use it. And that's the main magic of our lives. And I love how this is also like a little extra piece of our sacred sisterhood with us, Britt and I, because when Britt reached out to you, Abbie, I actually at the same time, maybe even the same day, I don't know, reached out to another artist. Her name is Destiny Singh, to ask her to illustrate for my planner and journal. And she does cool collages. Oh, cool. And so she creates these beautiful collages of the portals of each of the 12 portals. And we were like, oh my gosh, we're telling each other the stories that we reached out to illustrators and artists. We're like, what? Like, how is this possible? We're going through these similar motions and waves.
That's so interesting. Wow. How cool.
Yeah, I think that's one of the really beautiful reflections that you find when you do find yourself in sacred sisterhood, because and you're not the first person that it's happened with me with. That's why it's so potent, Hannah, because in other sisterhood relationships, you realize that you're vibrating at a similar frequency, you're moving through life in a similar way. This is what draws you together, and this is what makes you feel so connected to each other on an energetic level. So then whenever they are going through things, if it's in a relationship or in their career, in their, whatever, and it's reflecting yours, obviously looking completely entirely different, but when it does reflect, it's like you two are moving through life in that season together. You're helping each other move forward, and you're helping each other learn, and it's just such a powerful connection.
Yeah. Yes. And we're going to have some, at the end of our conversation, we're going to have some sacred sister questions as well, where we dive deeper into that with you, Abbie.
Can you ask that one more time, because your internet went out? Sorry, I'm interrupting.
Oh, okay. And in the end of the interview, we have 3 sacred questions that we usually ask our guests. And one of the questions is about that sacred sisterhood for you as well, because we feel that how important that is in really shining our light so bright, to have that sacred sister. And even if it's just one person, or we have maybe a whole tribe of sacred sisters, but it's so helpful to have our magic reflect in other people, and then help us to manifest and bring that into our own gifts and services that we do for the world.
Yes. So Miss Abbie, as far as placing orders and things, what are the things that you are offering? I know that you have illustrations and prints and posters. Can you just let the people know what it is that they'll find at your shop, and are they still good to order for holiday season?
Yes. Okay, so I have a lot of offerings. So I, as an illustrator, I sell prints, cards, pins, stickers, lots of different illustrated goods. You can find those on my Etsy. So if you follow me on Instagram, my Instagram is Abbie Ren Illustrations, ABBIEREN Illustrations. And then if you just click the link in my bio, that will bring you to my Etsy. And then my boutique is Local Oasis. You can find that at localoasislv.com. And that's where I sell all my boutique goods, other local artists, and my work as well. We offer shipping, and yes, you're still good to go for Christmas for a while. But the sooner the better, because all of the postal services are getting lots of, they're having to move a lot of packages right now. But we also do curbside pickup at the shop as well.
Ding.
Love that little ding, ding, ding.
Maybe
Beautiful.
something
So
went
we do
off
have-
on one of our listeners. I'm like, ding, that's what I'm gonna do.
You're like, I
Oh,
know where my Christmas gifts are coming from.
we do have a lot of really beautiful Christmas decorations and holiday decorations and Christmas stuff and Hanukkah stuff.
Beautiful. Yeah, so go and check those things out. And then, Abbie, we do have our sacred questions that we ask every guest, and you can answer these in a shorter format, just whatever it is that comes to surface.
Okay, cool.
So what does sacred mean to you?
Sacred. What does sacred mean to me? Okay, so I've been saying that I'm really excited for my house because I want to make it a sanctuary. And so for me, like those words kind of go together, like sanctuary and sacred. I think it's just having like a space where you really belong. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And who is a sacred sister to you, and what does it mean to have a sacred sister?
So my sacred sister is my actual sister, Jamie. I think for me, it's sort of like that kind of like, I feel like I do have almost kind of like a soulmate sort of connection with my sister, where I think like she's not going anywhere. Like it's someone who you can like totally depend on. Like she's truly going to be my lifelong friend, and I can tell her anything and she can tell me anything, and we're safe spaces for each other. We still fight. We're still sisters, but
That is so sweet.
not most of the time. Most of the time we get along well.
I love that. I love hearing about like actual blood sister relationships.
Yeah.
So what are
I'm
some of
grateful for that connection.
Yeah, I'm grateful to hear about it. I said that because after my mom passed away, my sister and I started getting a lot closer, and we've never in our adulthood and like older childhood, we like weren't really that close. There was like a lot going on in our family and we weren't very close. But now after my mom's passed away, and especially now after my dad's passed away, we've really just grown our relationship in such a beautiful way that I've never known before.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, that's great.
It's really, really cool. Thank you
Yep.
for sharing that. And then what are some ways that you make something normal or mundane into something magical or sacred?
Art. Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so for me, I think that art is in everything. And for me, it's an important thing to have a beautiful space and in a beautiful environment. So I would say, like, if you're not feeling that peace in your home, like buy a new house plant. Like, this isn't a pitch for my store, by the way, but could be. But get a new little house plant, get a new candle, like just bring more like beauty and warmth into your space.
Yeah, that sacred space is so important because that's like our, like you were saying, sanctuary. And from that place on, we can create that magic for the world.
So beautiful. Oh,
Beautiful.
yes. We want to thank everyone that's listening to this podcast here now at the end right now. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. We hope that you're leaving here with some insightful little golden gems, some little cute gems, and that you've picked up on the cute little spirit of Miss Abbie Ren. And Abbie, we want to thank you so much for coming and taking time out of your day to sit with us and have this conversation.
Thanks for having me. You guys are wonderful.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you for bringing your magic into the world the way you do.
So special.